We are live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bigfoot Odysseys and Researchers Reports. We got a great show for you tonight. I'm Kerry Arnold. With me, as always, producer and co-host of the report, Miss Daniela Aiello. I heard it that time.
Hello.
My chair squeaky. And our guest for this evening, these two gentlemen joined us on this epic adventure. They were the two cameramen behind me, actually ahead of me most of the time. Mr. Mark Kenchel and Mr. Malcolm Taaffe, just like the candy.
Just
Only
a sweet.
Spelled really weird. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing well tonight. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here. Absolutely. Just want to remind everybody, keep it clean for us in the chat. We appreciate that. Y'all be nice to each other. It's a good time, I think, for people to be nice to one another. Absolutely. Well, so I'm sure most everyone has heard about what happened to us. You know, we got shut down in Florida, and you know, hindsight 2020, we probably should have just scrubbed the whole thing. But I think once you get a little bit of distance from it, you start to realize that maybe we did learn a few things that are going to help us when we actually get down there in the thick of it and be a little bit more prepared, when we go in the fall. But we got shut down in Florida and moved it. There were already guys gone. Marky had left the day before. Clay was already in Florida at a hotel. The Jersey brothers, they were already down there. So I kind of felt like we didn't need to quit. We needed to just kind of keep going. So we went to Bienville, Mississippi, the Bienville National Forest up in Forest, Mississippi. And we were there for a couple of days, got shut down there, left, went to Collins, the mine counter area, stayed there for 2 days, got shut down there. And I was pretty tired. I think I was pretty exhausted. I don't think it was physical. How do you feel about the whole mental stress of the thing, Mark?
Well, speaking obviously from my perspective, I had a breakdown on the way down, and so I had to get the car repaired, which was obviously you never anticipate anything like that. And my car is a fairly new car, so that was a big stress on me. Trying to find the kind of money, the cash to get that done and continue on my way.
Right.
And of course, while I'm sitting there getting the car repaired, find out that Florida's shut down. And so, we're all rallying on our computers and trying to communicate with one another, trying to find, try to salvage something, trying to find another location. And so that was, a lot of stress. I mean, I think the whole thing about the stress, it just seemed insurmountable to try to cobble together something that was going to work. And to be able to overcome that between all of the 12 of us was pretty incredible. And then to kind of gather together again and actually meet at a spot where we were going to do some investigations was just amazing to me. The people that I've been able to work with have done a fantastic job. And Kerry, obviously you as the kind of leader of the expedition, I know you probably don't like to admit that, but everybody put together did a phenomenal job. And so that helped to relieve a lot of the stress, is that teamwork.
Yeah, it was a lot more work than it should have been. Just packing and unpacking and the stress of uncertainty. We went from a pretty surefire situation to where it was at least going to be on us. We knew where these creatures were. All we had to do was go in and get them. So we went from that to, I don't know what that is. That might be me. Yeah, it's probably my phone. To, just hoping we might get something. Not that they aren't there, Invest and MK Davis, I can't think of his name. MK Davis, that's where we shot our second Odyssey, was up there, and was out there in those woods with 6 people, found some incredible structures and saw where they gifted and just some strange things. And they've gotten some incredible evidence out there. They did the Scott Carpenter camera pointed behind you walking through there, and they've got this huge dark creature, whatever, moving through the treetops, 15, 20 feet up.
Yeah.
It's moving along with them, filming from behind. So they got a lot of good evidence. There's creatures out there, but for us, it's 160 something thousand acres. It's really big. I don't think we would have, unless we just got really lucky. I think we were going to have to put in a lot of time just to try to find them or anything really. And we did find some interesting things there. But from going from such a high, of where we were going, who we were going to have with us, with Mark Zasky, he knows exactly where these creatures like to be, to that, it's a big mental letdown. And it's hard to find anything. It was for me. I just had to stay busy. That's why I kept the axe in my hand. I was either chopping some wood or cooking dinner, or those first few days I was trying to stay busy and not think about just trying not to get myself down. Now, Malcolm, you went through a whole other test before you even got there, right? With the flights and all that good stuff. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I had to deal with the coronavirus in like a different way, like, traveling, and I guess they were on more lockdown than usual. And you can see they're staring at people, but they weren't taking temperatures and things like I thought. But anyway, as I arrived, there weren't any taxis for service, and I wasn't able to get any type of service. So I basically had to walk approximately 4.5 miles to the hotel, and got used to the climate pretty quick. A
little different, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was real swampy feeling. I was just I couldn't even breathe actually. Yeah.
Look,
so,
go ahead.
But I noticed all around me was really like boogery, so I knew it was the right area. But I had to get where I had to get going. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've lived in this area pretty much my whole life. And when I went to work in West Texas 9 years ago, I stayed out there for like 3 months. And, it's the high plains, the high desert is 3,500 feet above sea level. Here is about 80 feet above sea level. So it's very humid here. I was out there for 3 months. I came home. It was like 80 degrees. I went to mow the yard and almost died. I was just pouring sweat. 3 months, I'd become acclimated to being out there in the dry heat. It may get to be 120, 125 degrees out there, but that's all. There's zero humidity, so it feels about the same. You can breathe. You can still breathe. Here, forget about it. If it gets to be 90, 95 and a 99% humidity, yeah, you're not breathing. If you're not from here, you're in trouble. That's all I can say. But I know we've got some footage. We've got a lot of stuff, and there's a story to tell there, and I'm going to tell it just so everybody knows. I am going to get to it. I haven't really felt like even looking at any of it. I know I've got at least 14 hours of continuous recording on the little Zoom setup that I built with the backup battery on it. We went and set that out. We got like 3 hours once, and then I think 4 or 5 hours the second time. The third time was 14 hours. So there's actually more than that. So I haven't even attempted to listen to any of that. I may get somebody else to do that. I don't know. But we have a lot of footage. Kench, you shot a lot of stuff when we were at Bienville. Malcolm, you shot the guys in the field at night when we were out in Collins. So we do have stuff on the main camera, and then I'll just take and look. Mark Newbill gave me his SD cards, so I'll go through all that stuff and I'll make a story out of it somehow. I'll tell the
Kerry,
story of what happened to us.
Right in the beginning, like when we're going down the hill and we split to the right and to the left, Team A and Team B. To the left of when we go down the hill, I don't know if you can see eye shine in there, but I saw an eye shine about 7 feet high, and it looked like it went like this real quick and then like darted off to the right. And I had told everybody, but everybody kind of like was like, but I saw it real clear. And that was like, for me, it was an affirmative because it's the first time I've ever seen something like that, so.
We smelled them.
Yeah.
Jeff Townsend, the second we got there, you guys were packing up. I was going to walk down, just try to find like a little heart pine to get a fire going, and went 20 feet down that little trail and smelled it.
Oh, yeah.
It was brief, and it was just in that one spot. And I got Jeff to come down there. Jeff was my security. I got him to come down there and smell it. And it's like nothing else. It's like this strong pea smell. But there's also that strange stale barrag smell in there with it. It's such a different odor. And I smelled it, and I got my heart dropped a little bit when I did. And I didn't want to go on down any further, but like I said, it was brief, and I had Jeff with me with the 10 millimeter. So I went on down, we set that up, or we were looking for wood at that point, came back out, and then smelled it a few more times after that. But Mark, why don't you talk about some of the stuff that you heard the first night, because you were away from everybody else. You were sitting over there listening, because I know we all heard different things, and that seemed like they were out of place. What was that you were hearing when you were over there by yourself, edge of the woods there?
So just to put that a little bit in context as well, since Malcolm is here, Malcolm heard some things in that same area.
Yeah, but that's
the next night.
I just want to talk about the stuff you heard.
Right. So
yeah.
I went over there. So I went over that night, away from the camp and away from the guys, just at the edge of the thicket, just to listen and try to concentrate on if I could hear anything. And at one point, I thought I heard voices, but they were very faint. There was another time where I heard, and I'm learning as I'm in this group, from folks like you and Mark Newell and Jerry. I learned a lot from from him, because I'm not a hunter, but I heard turkeys off in the distance to my right, and then a few minutes later I heard them off to the left, but it was only one cluck. So I asked them, I said, do turkeys do that at night? And they said, well, not normally, they're usually roosting. And I'm like, well, that sounded pretty bizarre. And then,
could you tell if it was on the ground? Could you tell if it was on the ground?
No, I couldn't tell if it was on the ground. It seemed like it was a little bit elevated to me. So it wasn't kind of lower to the ground. But the area I was looking at definitely had a berm to it where they could sneak up and kind of just peer over that berm if they needed to.
Yeah, firelight.
The other thing we heard that night was owls. I asked a question about the owls, and Mark Newell was very informative in that he said normal owls, especially the barred owl, has that kind of trill at the end. They tail off. And he said it's been said that when you hear a booger do that, they can't do that trill. We definitely heard that. So we heard
we don't know
the owl.
If they can. Yeah, we don't know if they can't do it. We just when it has been heard, and people that know that it was one of these creatures, they didn't have it, and it's pretty distinct what you're talking about. That at the end, I can't do it like a real owl does, but I heard that too, and when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's a barred owl.
And, as far as the movement, there was definitely movement in the thicket back there. And we actually came through that thicket the last day when we were called in. We came through that thicket, and my goodness, it's difficult to come through that without making any noise. Yeah. So something was definitely making noise back there.
Absolutely. We all heard it. I mean, some of you guys heard it better than others, but that first night, Malcolm, you and Jason were right there, 5 feet away from the edge of that thicket in your tent. Talk about what you heard in that same little area right there.
Well, where Kench just explained, right where that berm is, it was coming from that direction, and it seemed to be like somebody who was hearing impaired, and it was bang the haw like that, and wah wah or something in that way. And I remember Jason said, "You heard that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we kind of put it off. And then in the middle of the night, when it started raining, something had pulled the canopy piece, like as if it looked down, because our tent had like a canopy over it and then a netting. Mm-hmm. So like if you lifted it up, you can look dead right down into the tent. So I didn't put two and two together until I got home. Really, I think a lot of these things come to your mind later on, because
Right.
you're captured in the moment. But yeah, something had pulled the ropes they were pulling down. Because I remember distinctly saying to him, "That looks great," because it's our first time camping, so we were really anal about it, So something it eventually pulled it up and looked down, I believe, and then we were covered with water. The whole tent was filled with water on the inside. So I woke up that morning, and when I went outside and it was just about dusk, I felt like I was being watched. It was just the environment was sort of like, really like they were
Definitely
there.
felt different than the Bienville. It's
definitely.
a lot more claustrophobic. And, when we did the personal interviews, that was one of the very things that I asked right there at the end was, what's your general feel of this place so far? And everybody pretty much said the same thing. It's kind of got a creepy feel to it. If you let yourself get creeped out, you will right there every time. It depends on, I guess, your frame of mind, what's going through your head, what you're hearing. I spent a lot of time in that place and only ever got creeped out a few times. And it was usually always in that one spot that I showed you guys, that bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But
was that near where we parked the cars,
camp?
Kerry? Like, remember where we and Jason parked the car? Was that near that area?
No. Where we went and cut the firewood when you came out where Kench was parked.
Okay.
If you go right a little bit farther down, go down that hill, that little muddy spot there, that was it. Because water used to flow through there, and it was clear, you could see. And this is what I think.
When you look at the footage, Clayton and Jerry and I, that last day, we left the camp somewhere around 8 o'clock, and we were going to go back to the back of the property line. And when you get back there now, there's a barbed wire fence. So you go through the area where we collected wood, and you go across the creek back there, and then you go up the rise a little bit, and then there's a barbed wire fence. That's the end of the property. And you told us that's where you had your sighting back there.
It was actually a little bit farther down. I was actually on someone else's property when it actually happened. I wasn't really aware.
Well, I remember you telling the story about the where the water crossed over there, and we went over to look at the swampy area over on the left-hand side as you're going back towards where we collected the wood. So we went over and looked at that swampy area, and then we crossed the street and we went back into the tunnel area where the water started to flow. And it was really, really deep. Now, Clayton didn't go all the way back there, but Jerry and I did. And we saw what we believed was or could have been a structure. And I also took video and I think a still of what we thought was a footprint in the middle of the water. And it wasn't that old, according to Jerry, because the heel portion of it, that's where the water was flowing, kind of like a waterfall, and it hadn't degraded yet. It was still pretty much intact, and it was about the size of Jerry's foot. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Maybe a 12, maybe. I'm just guessing. But we went back in there quite a ways before we came back out and came to Clayton, and then we went back farther to the barbed wire fence. Came back up, and we went around through the woods. But that's definitely, I mean, you are not kidding. That is a creepy area back there where that water flows.
Yeah, the whole place could creep you out if you wanted to let it. But this is what I think happened whenever, back in the day when I was out there a lot, and I would hear the knocking all the time. I would hear it as soon as I would pull up in my four-wheeler. I would pull in from into the lease road, and I would park into the right. All that really tall, thick stuff wasn't there. It was down low, just like sagebrush. And that's where I would park sometimes and then walk in. The road that's there now was not like that. It was a logging road that it was hard to get a four-wheeler through. It was that bad. So I would get off and I would hear the knocking. There's no telling how many times I heard it. Well, if it was early in the morning, that creepy place had water flowing through it. So it was relatively clear, by contrast to the rest of the place. you could see for 100 yards in either direction because water flowed through there. Especially when it flooded, a lot of water came through. And I think they would get where they could see me and watch me. And I don't know. People say that, you can feel someone watching you. I'll buy that. I'll buy intuition and being able to tell and feel that when something's watching you. But I think that's what it was. I think I would get off my four-wheeler. They would knock and let everybody know I was there. Go get in position. I would walk through there, and there was just not a sound. There'd be no crickets chirping, birds, nothing. When I would go through, that'd just be eerie. That deafening silence, that high pitch that you can get in your ear when everything is so quiet. That's what I would get there. And once I got through it, I was okay. But the thing about the knocking that I never really put together was how they did it. It'd be 4 or 5 knocks, and then that would be it. And then 30 minutes later, here's 7 or 8 more. Hour later, 3 or 4 more. It was I just thought somebody was up there beating on something, and it was carrying through the woods because I was stupid and full of myself. Hate to say that.
Why would you think it was anything else?
Right. That's the thing. There's an explanation. It's got to be something. Why am I even worried about it? Like I said, they were always doing it. Always. Every year, all the time. And I have heard it to the point where it sounded like somebody was building, like hammer on 2x4s and nails, like building a roof or whatever they were doing. I don't know. But apparently, I heard the knocking at 2:00 one morning. I was out. I was camping. I was out there, fire, and I heard it way off, like maybe 400 or 500 yards away, across the hollow on the other ridge line. Knocks, probably 10 or 12 hard knocks. And then I heard it again about 200 yards in the other direction, a little bit closer, but I still heard it. And this is actually what I thought is there's bamboo out there. You can find little areas where there's just little swaths of bamboo. And I was thinking that's bucks, and they're hitting on some bamboo with their rack. I mean, realistically, it had rhythm. It wasn't bucks. The crashing coming through the woods that I heard every time I'd hit that can call, here it come. And I'm thinking it's the smartest buck in the world. He's just outsmarting me. And you're talking to a guy that would belly crawl on my elbows through the thick briars just to get in a position to where I thought I was hunting on the ground, just to get into a position where I thought they were bedding up so I could catch them coming out or going in. I probably did that a dozen times. So that's how hardcore I was out there about that place. I was all over it. It was something.
Well, I don't know about Malcolm, but there was twice when I got the creeps. One was in is it Bienville?
Yeah.
And then the other one was out at your area. And that was when Clayton and Jerry and I were coming back. We'd already seen an area where we thought there was pine needles matted down and some pine logs that were laying on the ground that looked kind of odd. We saw an X, and coming from that area and headed towards that X, and I hope that I got some good footage of it. There were like a natural lay where some limbs had fallen down, and there was a hole there, and whatever it was stepped on those limbs and snapped them and stepped in that hole, and it looked like a footprint. And Jerry made a measurement of it, and it was 14 inches. When I saw that, I called them over there, and I immediately started getting creeped out and the chills. The hair on my arms was standing up on end like I'd never seen before.
Wow.
And I got that same reaction when Jerry and Clayton and I went out and we were coming back through the woods, and I thought what I heard like some kind of grunting behind me. They didn't hear it, but I heard it. And when I heard it, I got the same reaction with just the chills and the creeps. I knew I heard something behind us. Clayton got the thermal out, couldn't see anything. So I don't know what that was, but twice it happened to me. So I saw some amazing things in my book that I thought were pretty credible and pretty incredible. So
Good.
I agree.
But what's your experience before all this, Mark, with Bigfoot?
yeah, so like I told the guys before, we're just sitting around the campfire talking and things like that. I do some, research down in Uwharrie in North Carolina, Uwharrie National Forest. Just here recently, my son and I went out and we'd set up a decoy tent. And on the way back on a very old, overgrown Forest Service road, there's a mountain or a hillside that goes up. That evening, it was really slick with leaves and rocks and stuff. And as we were going back to the main trail, all of a sudden we heard this almighty crashing. My son was looking for boulders coming down the hill or some kind of a tree log coming down the hill. And we were looking and we couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, whatever it was took off in the opposite direction that we were walking and parallel across the hillside. And it was making almighty crashes. I'm getting chills up my back talking about it right now. Never heard anything like that before. Also that evening, about 12:30, I think at night, something woke me up, and it was a decisive tree knock, not very far away from our camp. Knew it wasn't a limb that fell out of the ground. It never hit the ground. It was just one loud, decisive, deliberate knock. So those are the kind of things that, I've heard. Solo camping on audio. I've heard tree knocks. I've heard what sounds like really soft kind of communication grunts. So there's definitely something in Uwharrie, and I'm not the only one that knows that. So that's kind of my experience.
And what about you, Malcolm, before all this?
Well, my interest lies in their height and their weight, and how they got so large and how they acquired this kind of mass. When we both are basically the same, somewhat genetically, and then find out that I've studied the glacier water up in Adirondacks, and I'm finding there's this thing called deuterium that actually is involved. It's an isotope of hydrogen, and it's in all our water. And basically, this deuterium has one extra electron, which I don't want to get into it, but it messes up our nanomotors that make ATP in our body, which is our energy source, basically. And we don't metabolize it well. But because it was during the Ice Age that this happened, it locked up all of the, which is protium, which is the good hydrogen that we should be absorbing. It locked it up in the ice, and basically we get the runoff of the deuterium in our water, and they take advantage of, the Yeti took advantage of the glacial waters, like the Hunsans in northern Pakistan. They live to 150 years old, things like that. So that's my interest, is in their diet and how that relates to their massive size and how they metabolize. Like, for instance, they eat leaves, and the plant does a lot to filter out that deuterium, making it like deuterium light. Basically, it doesn't contain much of it. It contains some, but not as much as we get. And actually, it's ironic that the deuterium is linked to like a 1% declinage in our system. So it's basically the reason why we age. So I'm interested in that line and how Bigfoot relates to it.
What do you feel about the mass of them? How big they are? Like in layman terms, tell me. How do you think they get that big?
Well, basically, they metabolize oxygen a whole lot better than we do.
Right. Okay.
And because of that, their muscles repair much faster, and they build mass much faster. And they eat like pure fat. They don't burn it. So they're getting this water from the deer, because we get water from everything, but they're getting water from the deer live. And in the fat, there's protein-rich water, which then goes into their cells and makes their cells protein friendly and no deuterium, basically. And this, see, a long time ago, we didn't have this problem. That's why there were a lot of giants and big people, and it got locked up during the Ice Age. So I believe that the Bigfoot is a descendant of the Yeti that came across the ice bridge and settled down in these parts. But when this was still glacially covered, like our area, like New York and some parts of Mississippi even. So,
so you don't think, so you don't think they necessarily have to eat loads and loads of protein to create that mass. It's just something that happens naturally.
It's metabolism with the oxygen, the way that you would take it in, like the way they run up the side of mountains and climb trees so effortlessly. We could be able to do the same thing if we had this type of protein-rich water. But because the Earth is covered in this deuterium, because like if you look at it, it's H2O, but it's really HD2O, which is because deuterium and protium are both isotopes of hydrogen, and we absorb this really negative thing. It's like putting a triangle here. I don't know if you could see this. I actually see this little cog.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, you see, like, if it has if it has just a proton and a neutron, it fits perfectly in the cog. But because it's a proton, electron, and a neutron, which is 3, it's like triangular. So what it does, it destroys these 390,000 nanomotors within a mitochondria, and it destroys our DNA, and it causes us to grow older. And there's a relation to both. So I'm just like, I'm just on fire about this subject.
But this is a whole another show, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it actually is.
A lot to it, yeah.
That's the one thing that I think is that we don't understand is their metabolism. Obviously there's conservation of energy, and I think their behavior pans all of that out. Sitting still, not moving, even when you come by, a lot of the times they're just going to sit there and watch you while you go by. You're not going to see them. They're going to be on the ground. But when they do move, they just apparently are able to just move so fast. It's almost not comprehensible. I think the mistake we make a lot of the times is we're putting our own limits on them. And I think that's a mistake. I've heard so many times it's impossible for something that size. They would just destroy the habitat. They would have to eat constantly. And if you think about just the vastness of the United States, as many as 18 million Native Americans lived here off the land for thousands of years and didn't have any problem at all. If you're talking about a number of these creatures, even if it numbers up to 1 million, even if there are that many, there's plenty out there to eat, especially because we don't know what their metabolism is. We don't know what they can and can't process. Maybe they can process everything. Maybe they can control their own metabolism, kind of like bears do it through enzymes. But maybe they can just do it at will, sit, slow down their metabolic rate, and just like hibernate for 12 hours a day. And then they're able to get up and can conserve energy that way. They've obviously been around a long time. They're obviously suited to this planet. They obviously live symbiotically with the Earth. Unlike us, we don't do that. If we ever did, we probably used to. Sure, we did. Depends on what you believe, I suppose. Some people believe we were created and put here. Some people think that we evolved from apes. I just depending on what you believe and how you can see that, you can see how it all fit. It would fit either way. No matter what the case, we don't live symbiotically with the planet. We destroy. And I mean, that's as sad as that is. I think the one thing that made us change was not having to worry so much about survival. How often do you concern yourself with just surviving? I'm not talking about right now, obviously. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're all worried about surviving. But think about this creature and what the nature of this creature must be. Every day, they have to find something to eat, shelter, warmth, or, cool themselves off, whatever. everything they do has to be surrounded by, has to go around that whole survival thing. That's why I think they're so astute and acute at paying attention to small detail. Aside from their apparent ability to process information, they may not have as much knowledge as we have, but I think they certainly have the capacity and have the ability to think much faster than we do, simply because they're not bogged down like we are by day-to-day things like this right here: television show, cell phone, truck, gas, going to the grocery store, kids' homework. If you didn't have to worry about all those things and you just had to survive, I think you'd start thinking a lot faster, I think, possibly. I don't know.
Well, they don't know any different, do they? They don't know any different, I guess. And every animal does it. No, yeah, maybe not. But it's amazing when you just look at a bird, say, how it builds a nest, has its chicks, finds food for it, looking out. It's just this natural
instinctiveness,
amazing
right?
instincts. Some of these animals, ants, just fascinating.
I was watching this. I was watching a special how some countries even use animals to predict like oncoming hurricanes or earthquakes. I think there's a flag in China that shows like if your dog starts running around in circles, report it to the administration because it means that an earthquake is coming. It's odd. I mean, but
if my dog starts making a circle, he's about to do something. He's getting himself lined up. And, he always faces north. He always faces the same direction. So I wonder if it's not a magnetic thing.
Mine does the same about 3, 4, 5 times sometimes.
Yeah, just make a circle.
Just get it right on the compass,
Yeah. I was just using that for instance. I don't think that's the actual.
But, the animal kingdom is so attuned to barometric pressures and magnetics and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, you think about birds, how they migrate, I don't know, many, many years ago, I was watching a documentary about that, and they were talking about how their brains are set up to follow the magnetic patterns, and that's how they can navigate through great distances and stuff. And the animal kingdom is so attuned to what goes on in the natural world that it's, well, like Malcolm says, it's instinct. It's first nature for them. Whereas for us as human beings, it's second nature. We have to learn things like how to make fire and, what foods to eat, what berries to eat, all those kind of things. We have to learn. We have to be taught that kind of thing. Right. But the animal kingdom does not have to be taught. I mean, it's instinctual for them. They just know.
They do.
Straight up. They just know.
I'll just go back to the birds. There was last year nesting in my front hedge, and there's a regular blackbird that comes here, and it's looking for food. There's not a peep sound coming out from that nest. The minute the bird arrives with the food, they're squawking. The minute they go, they're quiet as anything. They know, even at such a young age, not to make a noise, not to be detected. They just
can you call it knowledge though? I mean, is it
instinct?
Is it instinct? I mean, I suppose it's instinct. It's definitely not something that's learned. The things that are learned leave room for error. You can make a mistake. These creatures don't make mistakes. It's just it's in every single one, and the ones that it's not in don't live long enough to pass it on. So yeah, absolutely. But before we go on, I just want everybody to know Bigfoot Odyssey, we started doing something a little bit different. We started telling stories. I think we've got 2 of them out there right now. And if you've heard them before, it's because you heard them on Dixie Cryptid. Those first 2, I wrote those stories. People that I talk to on the phone all the time. I wrote them a year ago and sent them to Cam. And I was talking to him then. And he's like, Kerry, you need to do this. Why don't you do this? I'm like, it's your gig. We got our own thing. So he was trying to convince me to do narrations a year ago. And I called him up and talked to him. And he told me, yeah, man, you just need to go ahead and do it. Go for it. So I did. And it's called Story Time. There's 2 of them up there right now. I just put the second one up. I'm going to be putting probably one up every single day. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to start doing some of the classics. You guys are going to hear Albert Osman, the Bowman story from Teddy Roosevelt's point of view there, Ruby Creek. There's like 6 or 7 of the classics that I'm going to do, and then I'm going to get into some that you guys have sent me. So if you have any more that you want me to tell and narrate through and put some little music and maybe a nice pretty scene to it, just send them to me. Email right here. You can send it to yourbfstory@gmail.com. Daniela will get it to me, or bigfootodyssey@gmail.com. I really appreciate all the help. I appreciate you guys that have sent stories in already. You send it in, and I'm going to do just a little bit of work to it, just to make it a narration, like I did with those. You know, I talked to those people on the phone. The way those stories are told is from me. A lot of those things in there, they didn't say. The gist of the story is the same, but I had to make it a story. So someone was mentioning getting affidavits from these people, and I mean, come on. Take them for what they are. You know, their stories. Whether you believe these people or not, this is the way it was brought to me. I thought those were 2 great stories. Those first 2 we put out. The second one, I had a lot of trouble with it because I don't like to believe that these creatures can be that way. You know, I don't know if you listen to it, but apparently they can. But you can also befriend a bear. There's a process there. You know, a certain amount of trust has to be earned before that happens on both ends, obviously. So
Right.
I think it's possible that you can, but I don't think these creatures are good or evil in any sense. I don't think they draw moral lines either way. I think it's all about survival and opportunity and whatever that means, whatever that takes. I think a lot of the things they do, if they are good and it was intentional, fantastic. I don't think they're all the same like that. I think it's so diverse with this creature. They all look different, act different. Some may look similar and act similar, but they're such a diverse. It's so variant. The behavior and the way they look, and who knows why any of those things are what they are. But could it possibly be the reason we had ogres and trolls and those stories that you heard, you know, from back in the day, which I think was a Tuesday or Wednesday? Wow. Crickets. Where's the cricket thing? I didn't get it.
I don't think
Or a
Yeah.
guy falling off a cliff and you just yeah, you get that
I
one.
got rid of the crickets because I thought I'd never need it, and there you go.
Oh,
Ranch Man 13, send it to me, I'll tell it. But yeah, if you guys do send me your story, I'm gonna write and turn it, probably change it a little bit, maybe not. But I have to do it so I can read it and kind of make it, you know, my own. But I appreciate all you guys helping out and doing that. And hey, you really want to help take those, share them. Give it a little thumbs up if you like it, and share it. Get it out there. Maybe we can make it a thing now. We'll be Dixie Cryptid Jr. here. Along with everything else that we're doing. I'm still going to do the Odysseys, and we're still going to do the researcher's report. You're just going to get some more content. You're just going to get a story every day. So hopefully every day. We'll see. I think whenever we do the Odysseys, the stories I may go ahead and get some ready and have them in the queue just to line out. And I'm going to start putting several together instead of just one 6-minute, 7-minute long, you know, video. So I'll probably start putting 2 together and making them a little bit longer for you guys. So.
Sounds good.
All right. Does it sound good? Really?
Sounds really good.
Yes, it does. Very, very good.
Yeah, it is.
What about questions? Anybody got any?
There was a question really earlier on. It was a lady in the woods, and she said, have any of you had any ill feeling or been sick after your trip out?
Depressed?
I felt like I was zapped because I read up on it on infrasound, and it was like I was getting palpitations. I couldn't sleep. It was really weird.
I was as tired as I've ever been. I don't know. And it was all here. It wasn't really physically tired. It was just mentally drained. I didn't want to do anything. I had no desire to do anything. Um, I mean, I kind of snapped out of that, but it was while we were out there, I kind of felt that way. And I'm pretty sure that was noticeable also.
Well, in my observation, when it really turned for you is when we went to Collins. You weren't too bad until we got there, and then it was like, what's happened to Kerry? Where's what's going on? It was, I mean, it was very noticeable and obviously understandable.
Yeah, I don't like being out there. I really didn't. I was really trying really hard to do something. And I was just hoping you guys would pick up cameras and start going, and I could just sit there and let you guys do it. I would handle all the in between, but we just didn't have enough time to do that. And those last 3 days we had planned, I had things planned, but it took a little while just being out there, and it was nothing more than reaction. I really tried not to. I kind of had that feeling a little bit at Bienville, like my stomach just instantly, I got to get away from you guys like right now. And then, but when we got out there, it was a little bit more drawn out and just really not wanting to be out there at all. But,
well, I never really felt sick or anything. I just think it was more adrenaline than anything else. For example, the last night that we were there, I stayed up in camp at the fire until about 4 o'clock. Now I dozed off occasionally. I stayed up until 4 o'clock and I crawled in bed, and it started raining. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, Clayton is getting me up at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, come on, Kench, let's go. So, I get dressed and then we go out, Jerry and Clayton and we go out and we do at least 4 hours by the time we come back to camp. And then, it's like, we've got to bug out. And so we're pulling all the tents down and moving the wood to the side and doing all of this stuff. And of course, at that time, I'm really tired and trying to get my breath and stuff. And Mark and Larry gave me some Gatorade, and I was trying to find shade and trying to help out and drink the Gatorade. And then we went back to your house, Kerry, and then I left and drove all the way up to, I don't know where, I think 4 hours short of getting home. I had an 11-hour trip. And I did all of that on just pure excitement and adrenaline because I'd been up for so long. So that was the only thing that was fueling me. I wasn't sick. I didn't feel tired, felt in the best shape that I'd ever felt. And I think a lot of that had to do with the excitement and the anticipation, knowing that we were going to find some kind of evidence. Of course, the energy in the camp, being around the guys, because a lot of them were excited, and just that roller coaster ride. And a lot of that was adrenaline and, the excitement and anticipation. So I didn't have time to feel sick or scared or worried. I was there in the moment. I wanted to find something. I think we did find something. We didn't find what we wanted to find because that was in Florida. But yeah, I couldn't stop. I just wanted to keep going.
Well, let me reiterate. I didn't get sick until I got home. And I think jet lag or something else had something to do with that, or who knows. But I know that twice we smelled that zoo smell. And I know we were close to whatever it was that was there. And had we had the time, we would have found mad evidence, man. We would
totally agree with that.
We were very close, even the second day in. So I could imagine 4th, 5th day, because they started to come in. I could tell, you could smell them. I saw the eye shine. You felt what you heard, what you heard. Everything was just clicking. I mean, it just required that extra couple of days, and unfortunately, we didn't get it. So.
Yeah, and we'll go to Florida, and it's going to be 10 times what you guys experienced there. Just especially being out there at night. Mark and Melanie don't go at night anymore. They just don't. He was going to bite the bullet and do it this time. Oh, well, we got this is
Clay.
Clay. We were finally hitting our stride the last day, just getting up and doing it, and we got shut down again. Yeah, it was very depressing. It was just drug you down.
Yes, we did.
I don't know. I think
Yes, we
think
did.
maybe some of the guys saw some things, especially at Bienville, that we thought were perfect positions. Good positions for one of, I think Larry Porch found one that was a good position to lay up and watch.
Me and Darren Lindsay found a gigantic one. I mean, it looked like a huge nest. And the ironic thing is there was a human one. It was a human blind in front of it, like a square one, like a fatigue. It had like fatigue wrapped around it.
Darren Lindsay from BDRP.
No, no. I'm talking about the guy that was with me. I forgot his name.
Jason?
Remember Kench? The guy that I went into.
Was it Jason?
No, I went out in the woods with him a few times and I forgot his name.
Was it Roy? Roy?
Had the red truck. He was the owner of the red truck. He was from
Lewis.
Oh,
Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis.
Yes.
Yeah, Lewis and Jerry.
Yeah.
Pachersky boys.
Lewis is the one. Me and him found a big old blind behind. That was.
I'm thinking Darren Lindsay. He
Not
runs.
bad.
He's a cool
I don't
guy.
know why.
He runs the BDRP. I wish he would have been with us. He BDRP South, I think.
Right.
Is Darren. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, Kerry, right where the camp was set up, we put ourselves right in the middle of a place where they could sneak up on us. That we would never be able to know that they were there. There were berms that were set up just at the edge or just beyond the edge of the woods where they could crawl up and peek at us. There were a couple of trails there that they could have walked up. We'd have never known they were there. And we were in the perfect place for them to sneak up and have observations.
We
would have known nothing.
No doubt they did.
Right. It was like a stage. It was like a stage set up for humans, man.
It was.
Perfect observation for us. We're wide out in the open. Everything else is thick, and you'd have never seen them. You'd have never seen them, not unless they wanted you to see them.
That road that came, or the path, or whatever you want to call it, that came into where the camp was, and you had that blind that was on the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. That was like a tunnel in there, and it was dark coming through there at nighttime. It was really creepy looking down in there. You'd have never known they were there. You'd have never been in. If the moon was shining bright, you would have never seen them.
Yeah, absolutely. You find it funny you say that. The very first one Mark Zaski saw down in Hungryland, Florida, when he went back to investigate, that's what he found was it was just tunneled out into the palmettos. It was like 5 feet tall, 5 or 6 feet wide, and it just went through there. And right at the beginning of that is where he saw the thing land. I think that's what he said. Because it jumped 30 feet across the trail and landed. He said it landed like he thought it was going to crash. That's how fast it was moving. And he said it landed so soft, like stood up, peeked at him out from behind a bush like that, had his hair hanging all down. He said it was just a dude, just a big dude, kind of reddish, motley colored, had long hair on its head, and ugly, obviously, face, exaggerated features, but wasn't apish. It was like a person. And then he just kind of melted back into it. So I never saw or heard anything else. And he was sitting there screaming at his partner the whole time, "Get the camera!" One of those situations. But funny you talked about that tunnel thing, because deer don't do that. I can't think of any other animal that would do that naturally. So that's interesting right there. I don't know. I got to go through all this footage. I'm gonna look and see what all we have. And I'm at least going to tell the story, what happened to us. And if we got anything good, everybody's going to get to see it, but don't look for it anytime soon. I'm not feeling it. When I feel it, that's when I'll do it. So
understood, man.
That could be day 5 of isolation.
Could be.
I know, right?
I might be through my 30th narration in 4 days going, it's time to do something else. Let's look at this stuff now. So we'll see.
There was a question, I think.
More questions? We got about 5 minutes.
Kelly
Hello, Dixie Dobbins.
Oh yeah, hi Dixie. All the videos are on YouTube. Yes, that's Kelly.
What vids?
Kelly Ray Jones asking, I'm just getting online, Kerry, but are the vids posted on YouTube? Everything is watching from Facebook, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, Kelly. Nothing from the expedition is on YouTube, but the new story time is on the YouTube channel. Yes, I could probably put them on the Facebook too.
Yeah, I'll share them if you want.
Yeah, we'll put it on there. Danielle will share them on there. She runs a Facebook group. Have we hit 5,000 in the Facebook group yet?
We've gone over 5,000. Yeah, about.
Really?
It's been that long since I've been in there. I knew we were close.
Yeah.
And that to me, that's amazing. Almost 25,000 subscribers on the channel, and we'd hit over 5,000 in the Facebook group. About 80 or 90 active in there, which is normal for a Facebook group, I suppose. But yeah, we feel very fortunate that we have this many people that care enough to just hit that button and want to follow us and know what we're doing.
Well, this is the 91st.
91st researchers report. Yeah, we started back in August. So was it? Yeah, August. I do believe.
When I made the thumbnails and I said, "Oh, I could make 20," and he was like, "Wait, just hold on." With the numbers on. I was like, "Oh, okay." If get to 10.
Yeah. Well, we do work hard here. It's not like we just try to put out something bunk. I mean, the researchers report is what it is. It's us sitting around talking, you guys interacting with each other in the chat. And, there's not a lot of whatever production is going on here. Daniela does all of it. But the videos we put out, the Odysseys, I try to work hard on the narrations. Those took me a little bit of time just because I wanted to get them right. And I didn't want to just sit down and record myself reading a story. I wanted to have something to it. So I hope you guys do like those and enjoy them. And if you do, share that bad boy. Share it. You help us out tremendously by doing that. And we appreciate everybody. It's just the whole thing is incredible. I really can't believe we're after 2 years. We started 2 years ago. I can't believe we're as far along in this subject. Our presence, such as it is in the subject, is this far along in 2 years. It's something.
It is. When I think back, the first episode.
Your favorite one, right?
Yeah.
Just went downhill from there, didn't it?
I was saying that to wind you up because I know you can see I know what you're going to say. I don't like that one, but
I don't like it.
Lots of people will agree with me. I can guarantee that first one, that's what.
Yeah, it's all downhill from there, I suppose.
Yeah. After you started adding the music and the cockerel and all that.
You don't hear that.
The clicking.
Or the squeaking.
You can hear that. You hear the squeaking.
Yeah, you still hear the squeaking. Yeah.
I'm gonna go get some WD-40 when we leave and spray this chair down. So,
but I think I feel the same as everyone. We're missing a Bigfoot Odyssey documentary. A new travel show.
It'll come. It's coming. It is coming. It's either going to be Mark Zaski, probably going to be Mark Zaski. I think that'll be a good Lucky 13 to do. Or Christopher Noel. Still got to do his. Because those guys actually have something to show. More than just a story to tell. It's there's going to be a lot of meat to those. A lot of evidence. Because that was the whole idea. Was to tell people stories, show their best evidence, give people an idea who these people are, so they could earn some trust. That was the whole idea of Bigfoot Odyssey, was not just having an encounter story. If you had an encounter, fine, but having some context to go with it, because a lot of people listen to these stories and don't know anything about the person, and it's hard to people want signed affidavits. But if you get to actually get to know some of these people and talk to them and see their regular day-to-day routine, that they're just regular people like the rest of us. They just had this experience, and being able to put that out there and understand a little bit about these people when these things happened, what they did, how they reacted, and where they are now with it, and how they felt and how they feel, and all those good things, to me was important. No one else was doing it. So we're going to keep doing it as soon as we can. I don't think we can, nobody's going anywhere anytime in the next couple of weeks. Anyway, I'll be sitting right here recording stories for you guys. So be looking for them.
Well, I will be.
Yeah, you can look
too, bro. I'll be here.
Cool. Well, hey, I think we've reached the end of our hour. It's been excellent to see you guys once again.
Same here, Kerry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the three of us are pretty much kindred spirits. I think we might have known that before we ever met each other. Very, very similar type of guys you got sitting right here. So, but yeah, great show.
Well, I just want to let you know, Kerry, before you go, that that's happened, in Mississippi, and not being able to go to Florida and stuff has not discouraged me in the least. If anything, it has fueled the fires. It's stoked those coals and made me want to go out and do this even more. And I cannot wait until Florida rolls around again. And it's just filled with anticipation and hope. That's for sure.
Well, good. I'm still waiting to hear from guys to see who is planning on going. Larry's not sure if he can make it. I haven't heard from Mark Newbill. I'm hoping those guys can make it. Clay Campbell, I'm pretty sure he's going to make it. But I'm just kind of waiting to hear from everybody before I start up another group and start getting another game plan together. I don't think anybody's in a hurry to do that, really. But we're probably we're going to trim it down just a little bit. And everybody's going to have their own particular charge. We're going to have the field research guys. We're going to have the filming guys. We're going to have the medic. We're going to have the logistics guys, and everybody's going to have their own particular job. I know we all those lines got blurred because we didn't go to Florida, so everybody was going out and doing things. But we'll get it together. I'll put it together. It'll be good, and I hope it'll be good. We're gonna work really hard to make it something special. That's all I want to do is make it something.
If not for just the beautiful brotherhood that was established that we got together, man, it was just a real good feeling. It was beautiful absolutely. All the way around, brother.
Absolutely. But hey, been a great hour. You guys, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, Malcolm and Kench and Daniela. It's been fantastic as always. Wednesday, who we got?
Hi, Daniela.
Got a great guest on, Brandon Shoma.
Oh, nobody knows 808 himself. Mr. Brandon Shoma will be on here until he had an Odyssey, without a doubt. He had.
Remember, I need to be back on with my deuterium. Okay, my explanation, and I'll have all the charts out and everything. I promise.
We'll do another show for that, definitely.
Absolutely.
You'll be blown away. You'll be blown away at this stuff.
Put that together.
Love you guys.
Definitely. Love you, brother. Hey.
Yep.
Good show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Kerry. Good night, Danielle. Malcolm.
Good night, Daniela. Good night, Matt.
Good night, Malcolm. Good night.